All right, here we go. Welcome back to Play Well Live, everybody. All right, it's time to do some building. Hope you had a great weekend, and I got my coffee. I'm all set. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna take on some a cool challenge today, a cool building challenge that was from Kaleb, and we'll see what we can do with it. So we'll get going on that in just a minute here. But yeah, welcome. As I said, hope you had a great weekend, and let's do this. So today's challenge, why I have my coffee here. Today's challenge from Kaleb was to make a, hi Johnny and Alex, welcome Johnny and Alex, all right. Today's challenge was to make a drink in a mug that was stirring itself, okay. Pretty cool. So I've got my my example here to kind of inspire me. All right, so I think when I stir it, I want the spoon going around the bottom there, and I've got kind of the top of it here in one place that's stirring around. So that was sort of my inspiration. Now, my other inspiration for this that I took from this challenge was Harry Potter, because I love Harry Potter. And so I think of this as like, you know, like a magic, like self-stirring spoon situation, which I think is just sweet. So that's kind of what I took. And I've done a fair amount of Harry Potter Lego building. Hey, Kaleb, welcome. Awesome. Thanks for the idea for this. I've done a fair amount of Harry Potter building because I'm a big fan. So I have like a whole display on the back of my desk, which maybe I'll show you at some point. But I wanted to show you one of the builds from it, which was like a mini Hogwarts castle here that I built. With mostly parts scavenged from old Star Wars sets that I had. But yeah, I have a whole kind of scene on the back of my desk from Harry Potter. So that's the inspiration I took from this. And hi, Loma. And so let's see here. First, I had to build a mug, right? I had to have some sort of mug. Oh, good. And my parents are here as well. Hi, Mom and Dad. All right, let's see here. So here's my mug that I built. I decided to go for a kind of rainbow pattern there. And I want it to be nice and strong and overlapped. You know me, I always have to talk about overlapping. Yeah, all right. You've heard it by now. You're done with the overlapping. So there's my mug. And now I wanted to be able to have some sort of spoon stirring in here, right? So I left the bottom open there. Okay, so that I could fit some sort of mechanism. And I didn't know what exactly I was going to put in there yet. But I was looking actually at our project from last week, which was the monster dance party. And we had a little mechanism there that was making them dance back and forth. And I looked at that initial part and I said, I can actually use that same start of a mechanism. So I want to start there, because this may be something that we're familiar with since we saw it last time, and then kind of go out from there and see if we can get this working exactly how we want it to. So let's see here. I'm going to maybe raise up my build a little bit, and then I'll tilt my camera down so you can see me a little better. Let's see if we can do this. All right, let's try. All right, so I guess I got to sit lower in my chair. Okay. I want to make sure we can see this. Okay, good. So here's my mechanism that I had started last time, okay? I've got my motor with my little 8-tooth gear there on there. And if you can see in here, it's got this special gear. I'll take off this top part. And I don't know if anyone remembers from last time what this type of gear is called. If you remember, where the teeth curl up and go up so that my motor can actually mesh with that at a 90-degree angle, right? They're not meshing like this. They're meshing like that. So if you remember what that's called, comment there, and I'll see if anyone remembers what that type of gear is called. Okay, and then I've just got it between a couple of plates there with those holes, those technical plates, so that I can make that spin, right? Okay, so I thought I need something spinning to get my spoon spinning, right? So I built kind of what I think is like the little top of a spoon sticking out here. The bottom is not a spoon, right? I didn't really want to put a spoon down there because I needed to have some way to connect it to my mechanism. Okay, so first of all, I have a gear here. I raised it up a little bit, just so that it's out of the way kind of the other things. And my vision is that that's going to go through the bottom here of our mug, okay? But it doesn't fit on there entirely, so I wanted to just build here a little bit and kind of see if we can get the idea of this spinning in our mug, and then maybe work the mug in around it, okay? So when we're going with a round gear like this, right, it just spins around, but I want something that kind of wobbles a little bit because I want it to look like it's stirring, right? So I didn't want to just put, let's see here, I didn't want to just put this straight up out of here. Obviously the gear is doing nothing right now. We'll look at that. So I didn't want to just have it spinning on top of there, right? Because then it just looks like I'm like twirling a spoon in there maybe. It doesn't look quite as realistic, right? So I wanted to get a little bit of an angle on there. Okay. So I took one of these angled connectors, all right? Hi, Tabitha, thanks for joining us. All right, I took one of these angle connectors. These ones all have different numbers. If you've seen these before, they have different numbers. This one is a number 3, which is like the gentlest angle. So imagine if I now just put this on top of here, okay? And now I make that go around. But it wasn't giving me exactly the kind of motion I wanted. That sort of, to me, is like the end of the spoon is staying in one place, and I'm like just moving this around the outside. That's not what I wanted. I wanted kind of the opposite of that, right? I want my hand, or the top of the spoon, to stay in one place, basically, and have the bottom go around the edge. So I needed to get this bottom part around the edge. So let's see if we can do that. Instead of mounting this right on the top, I'm going to mount it out on the side of this gear. And this is kind of what we did last time with our what was that? With our smooth technical beams last time with the Monster Dance Party, to make them dance back and forth. I put it around the edge so that instead of this, it would kind of give us our back and forth motion. So this is a little different use of that. But I'm going to use one of these combination pegs here. It's got an axle on one side and a little peg, round peg on the other side, so that I can stick that in the outside of my gear there. Okay, so my hope now is that the center lines up a little bit more with the center of this, and the bottom is going to go around the outside. Let's see what that does. That looks like a little bit more of a stirring motion, right? It looks a little better. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's get this in our mug and see what it looks like. Okay. All right. Oops. Pulled that whole thing out. Let's see. Let's maybe not pull the whole thing out. There we go. All right. Got that down there. And I'm going to mount my mug on here. Uh-oh. I'm running into my motor on the back there. Can you see that? This motor sticks up above there, so I'm running into that. Okay, I need to build this up a little bit taller. All right. And I like this to be really supported, so I'm going to add some extra plates on the side here to make sure that this is super supported. And let's get this up there. All right, let's see what we can do here. Maybe some bricks on there. That should be high enough now so that my mug can fit on here. Okay, so my mug is on there. You can see down in it. We see the axle sticking up through there, right? So now I'm going to take my gear and spoon and put that down in there. See if I can get that on top of that axle. Okay, let's take a look. So now I've got my gear mounted down in there. It's sticking up above the mug, right? There's that mechanism. And let's see what this looks like. All right, so I want this to be a self-stirring pot of coffee or hot cocoa or something, a mug of that. So let's see what that looks like. Let's see here. That's a little high up, maybe. Let's do that. There we go, where you can sort of see more of the mug. All right, let's see. Okay. That looks pretty good, right? I don't know about you, but that seems like a pretty fast pace to stir. I think I'd get pretty tired stirring at that rate. So now, this is as far as I got before, and now I want to try to slow that down a little bit. When I'm stirring a mug, I don't want to stir too fast. You know, if this is a self-stirring mug and it's stirring that fast, it's going to be spilling my hot cocoa everywhere. want to slow this down a little bit, okay? So let's see here. If you have any ideas of how to slow it down, go ahead and comment that. I've got a couple different directions I think we can go. Now, first of all, I don't know if anybody saw this or posted this. I didn't see it if you did. This gear down here is called our crown gear. So that's the one that has those teeth that curl up. I think it looks kind of like a crown. That's what that's called. I can't stir that fast until after I finish my cocoa. Yeah, exactly. You get the energy from the cocoa, and then you're stirring like crazy. Nice. Or the coffee. I guess that's very appropriate. Okay, so we want to slow this down, right? So, a couple different ways I think we can do that. One is to change the type of gear we're using. We could use a completely different kind of gear, which is the worm gear. If you've used a worm gear, you know that these are really, really nice for making things slower. Okay, but I didn't want to use the worm gear. I wanted to use a different technique. So we'll see if I can make this work here. I built another little stand to get us started with kind of some extra space to add on to this. Hi, Carmela, welcome. And I wanted to slow this process down. So I wanted to use what's called compound gearing, okay? So we noticed that I've got my little gear here that's attached to my bigger crown gear, okay? And if you watched one of Ben's other videos, even his last one with the pulleys, he talked about kind of comparing the different sizes and when you have a bigger one controlling a smaller one versus a smaller one controlling a bigger one. So here we've got a smaller gear that's moving a bigger one, so that's going to make it go slow. So I want to slow this down even more, so I've attached another small gear up here that I want to attach to another bigger gear. So I'm basically going to gear it down twice. So I'm going from a small one to a big one to make it go slower, and then I'm going again from a small one to a big one to make it go even slower. So let's see if we can line that up and make that happen. So I'm going to build basically another stand for these other gears, and let's see, what about if I go from really small to really big? Okay, so those are going to line up there. So now I'm going to build this next part over here. Let's see, I need a little axle to go in there. What else do I need? Need a little bushing. I want to make it exactly like this setup, but just with the bigger gear. All right. So I get my bushing on there and my larger gear. Okay. And that would drop right down into there next to that so that those gears can mesh, right? Okay. Now I want that to be really nice and secure. Let's see. I think I need a little bit longer axle because I want to get this down all the way down into another plate down here so that it really is locked into place. Right now that axle's not long enough to go down in there. So let me switch that out. One longer, all right? If you've used these axles a lot, you'll notice that they're the length of a certain number of studs, right? And for the most part, the black ones are an even number and the gray ones are an odd number. So the last one I had was a black 4-stud axle, right? If you measure that next to some studs, that one is 4 long. And now I'm going to the gray, which is going to be an odd number, which is 1 longer. That's 5. So I've got my 5-stud axle ready to go. And we'll put our bushing and our gear back onto there. I'm going to leave a little off the top so I can connect some other things onto there. And then I can drop that back down into my hole. Now it goes all the way down into my plate down there on the bottom to really hold that in place, okay? All right, let's test this out. So I'm going to put this down on here. It's the same mechanism, just now I've got that extra gear on there going from small to big, right? So now this one should go nice and slow. Let's see. Okay, we see how much slower that one goes, right? Because I've done that process twice of going from a small to a big, this one has to turn a bunch of times to turn that big one, right? And then I did it again. I went from small to big. So that next small one has to turn a bunch of times, in this case 5, because I think it's 8 tooth to 40 tooth. So that goes in 5 times. So that 8-tooth gear has to spin around 5 times in order to spin that big one once. Okay, so let's see now if we add on our, let's see what I do. Okay, if I add on our mug and everything and our spinner, let me turn this off here. It's a little loud, probably hard to hear me. We're going to add on our spoon onto there, okay? We'll see how fast this goes. Let's see here. Uh-oh. Okay, this gear is a lot bigger, so now I'm running into problems here. I need to put some supports maybe a little further out. This isn't going to be the strongest thing I've ever built here. We'll see. I'd have to reinforce this a bit. Does that get above my my gear? I think so. Okay, let's try that. Okay, it still clears. Still clears our gear down under there. Just barely. All right, and let's see now if we get our spinning spoon into there, what this is going to look like. All right, so let's see. This will be the slow version. This will be maybe like when you've just woken up before you've drank any of your coffee or your hot cocoa. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. That's maybe that's like sloth pace here. We're going real slow now. Okay, I think I may have gone too far. We got to find a happy medium. Okay, so yes, Loma, there is a lot of math involved in this. I know, it's really interesting. So I now went from an 8-tooth to that crown gear, which is 24-tooth, which means that one needs to spin 3 times, and then I went again from that 8-tooth to the 40-tooth, which needed 5 times. Okay, so now we're getting like this initial one has to spin 15 times, 3 times 5, in order to spin my big one here at once, right? So that's maybe a little too slow. So let's try something in the middle of that. All right, let's see if I can get this off here without destroying my whole mechanism. Okay. All right, we'll try one more iteration, one more version of this, see if we can get it the right speed. And all right, so instead of this big gear, let's try something sort of in the middle. Let's go with this one, another 24-tooth gear. This one isn't a crown gear. This one is just a regular spur gear is what they're called. They're like, if you think of the spurs on the back of a cowboy boot, right? So this is our 24-tooth, okay? So I'm going from an 8 to a 24, which goes in 3 times. And then I'm going from another 8 to another 24 now, which goes in 3 times. So that means my motor has to spin the gear 9 times, 3 times 3, in order to get this one to spin 1 time. Whereas this one, it had to go 15 times, right? Okay, so maybe I'm zeroing in on the right thing here. Let's try this. Okay, let's look back at our mechanism here. I've got my double one, and drop this down in, and why isn't that one moving? Oh, right. So before I had this one in there, right, which is a larger gear, which stretches further. So now I'm not meshing. My gears are not meshing, right? The teeth have to come together like this. Otherwise, they're like this. When one moves, it's not going to move the other one. We got to get them meshed up together. Okay, so I got to modify this a little bit and scoot these closer. Let's see if this does the trick. And I'm going to add some other supports under here as well. Okay, so now I've got that right next to each other, those plates. I drop that down in. Yeah, now they mesh. Okay, let's get this back into position and see if we think this speed is going to be good. Okay, so now we're somewhere in the middle of those, right? That's a decent pace. I think that looks like a good stirring pace. If I could talk. All right, there we go. Let's get our supports onto here. Okay. Want to support our mug, make sure that's above the gears, good. And let's drop that mug back on there. Okay, now I've got this little gear down here. I'm still using that big gear to attach my spoon. So that's gonna go, let's see, up on top of here, right? That's what I'm going to add on top of there. So I've got my big gear still so that my spoon is stirring in that same orientation, right? And I'm just going to attach that onto here after I put my mug on top. All right, so I've got my mug. There's my mechanism down there where you can see it through the bottom. And I'm going to get this little axle extender onto that axle that's sticking up and drop it in there. Okay, are we ready for take 3 on magical self-stirring spoon? Let's see. All right, I'm sort of aiming for. Let's see. This is about my pace of stirring. Let's see if we can. Let's see if we've zeroed in on that. All right, here we go. What's this? What's the spell? I don't know. There's got to be some spell to make this go. All right. Okay. Let's see. What do we think? There. That's pretty good. I might maybe try and make it go a little faster. I could use some different gearing, but that's pretty good. Okay. So that's my magical self-stirring spoon. Thank you, Caleb, for the idea, and with my Harry Potter inspiration for it. I don't know. Someone should come up with a spell to do that. I don't know what that would be. Self-stirrium. I don't know. Yeah, hope you enjoyed today's challenge edition. Keep your ideas coming. Whatever you want to see built out of Lego, I am excited to take it on. Try some things. We're gonna explore some options. Sometimes it might not work, and that's totally fine too. Remember last time I was talking about how engineers totally fail and make mistakes, right? And that's how we learn. So thanks for joining me today, and come back tomorrow morning for another check-in on Ben's treehouse. He's going to be doing some really cool stuff. So I hope to see you then, and I'll be back on Thursday for myself. So, all right. Thanks again, and share your ideas with hashtag #PlayWellAtHome, and we'll do it. Oh, good, Death Star. I see that. Okay, I'll see what I can do for that one. All right, bye everybody.